This is the Mind Body Detox Podcast, where we discuss all things integrative health and wellness, interviewing folks from all over the world, sharing insights and wisdom on how to live a healthier life in mind, body, and spirit. Are you ready for part 2 of the Colorpuncture episode? In this episode, I'm going to dive deeper into my experience as a medium, seeing energy fields, and how that really got me passionate about diving into colorpuncture, especially the science that Rosemary shares and how it gave me a language to further support and share what I've seen for many years. And we're going to talk about some common diseases and symptoms that colorpuncture can support, the many different types of screenings and assessment the colorpuncture system uses to make sure that treatments are properly individualized for each client. We're going to talk about some of the amazing success stories, and you don't want to miss this because there's some really cool stories we share about the before and after and the success for our clients with healing in this modality. And we're going to talk about the future of energy medicine and frequency and light therapy. So get ready for another information-packed episode. Here we go. I love the way that you're explaining this, because I wish sometimes that I could just hook myself up to people's brains and download the way that I perceive the world sometimes. And I'll kind of illustrate it this way, because you shared it in a very, very wonderful way that may make sense to different mindsets and different states of consciousness or awareness. How I've seen it and illustrating it like this is like everything around us is energy, is light, is moving particles, even the body, even the energy field of people. And you go deep, it's just all movement. It's always moving. And when I've seen disease set up in the body, and again, I don't diagnose as a medical intuitive, but when I see it, it visually looks like a disturbance, or it visually looks like a place of stagnation in the energy field. And then if I go into that, in that part of the stagnation, what is that stagnation? And the stagnation could be a stuck emotion or emotion that's been looping, and it really does go back to how do you bring balance to all of this. There's so many different ways and in an integrative approach that can bring balance, even the light therapy and functional approaches and nutrition. So many things affects this field, and thought and prayer. But what I think is interesting, and so far along my journey, this seems like the big kahuna, quote unquote, fixer. Again, it may not be for everyone, but at least in my journey, is when people move that stagnation. And it feels to me that when I see people move that stagnation, it's from a place where on some level, somehow, they've let go of a consciousness, a part of their identity that they've solidified. And usually prayer or meditation, those are vehicles that I've noticed and watched people that that vehicle allows them to let go of a stressful, even the way that they're holding their body, and then the emotional piece. And then you talked about what the somatic, the emotional, the behavioral, and the perceptual, and those are the space where I see rigidity around people's consciousness that starts to affect the body. And if it's been there for long term, then we have these diseases and things like that. So if everyone could just visually see themselves as an ocean of moving particles, and if anywhere it's not moving and it starts to get stuck, or it starts to get over hyper moving in an area where it's a little chaotic, that's when I see and I go, ooh, something's going with that person's energy field. And if we could all see that in ourselves or others, it would make so much sense to us what the solution needs to be. I need to calm this down, still this chaotic, over excessive movement here, or move this congested area. So I'm hoping that if you guys are visual out there and you can kind of see what I'm talking about in your mind, I hope that makes sense. And because I'm kind of piggybacking on what you're saying too, Rosemary, but from more of a scientific perspective.
And if you think about it, that your body is your history. So so your body, as Robert Shea says, the body bears the burden. So the body is holding those emotional constriction patterns. So exactly, we apply all these different methods. We're mentioning breathing. We're talking about biovital food. Fritz Popp did a very interesting black box experiment looking at biophoton activity in organic vegetables, and sprayed farm raised vegetables, that are not inorganic vegetables. He looked at the two, and it's really quite interesting. He has some photos of the different bioluminescence of those two types of vegetables. That's what we're saying. There are many different ways we support that biovitality, and we'll bring someone back out of these different type of constriction patterns that they get themselves in.
Well, I feel like if people understand the concepts of what we just shared here, that they'll go, oh, okay, I can see why then using light and frequency and some of these treatments can absolutely support it. But I would love for us to go into the common diseases and symptoms that maybe you have seen, and again, how color puncture supports healing in those particular symptoms or diseases. So how exactly does it work, and what does a treatment look like then?
So the first thing is, maybe you'd like to see, well, what is this device we're using? So since we're showing, I thought maybe I'll show you. So this is our light pen. So you can see we use a crystal tip with an organic color filter in the bottom. So that's how we transmit light and color into the body via acupuncture points. So we use acupuncture points and other holographic grid points to transmit light through the body's energetic pathways. And different frequencies of colored light have different levels of penetration into the body. So we were mentioning in allopathic medicine, they really like infrared frequencies because it's so highly penetrating. So we have an IR pen, which is 940 nanometers, that goes into the cell nucleus. So we use that for circulation and pain. This is the AcuLight wand that we're using. And these different colors of light transmit these different vibrations via or nanometers in a pattern sequence. And each vibrational sequence in a treatment has a specific effect, like de-stressing the nervous system or tonifying and strengthening organs. So we have these different frequencies of colored light, and then we use certain patterns of points on the body to activate a wave of change in the body via the brain, via the impact of the colored light on the brain. And so you're asking what type of issues we can work on. I mean, there are many, many things we can work on. You can use color puncture just simply for a headache, for insomnia. So you can use it more in a symptomatic way, but the real, and this is great. People can buy some small gold and silver crystals and use it for emotional regulation, centering, again, things like nausea or different symptom patterns. But when we work more deeply with people, we use patterns to unlock these core conflicts that are more profoundly connected with the root cause. So remember, we said back in the beginning of the talk, Chinese medicine and Esogetic medicine really have that deep intention to free up the root and therefore allow the symptom pictures to start to resolve. So we have different type of conflict therapies, prenatal therapies, ancestral and genetic therapies that we use really to get down deeper into the background.
So I would love if you have any examples of success stories and some of the amazing journeys that people have been on with you for color puncture, for the listeners to have an awareness of that.
Yeah, when I saw you were going to ask me that question, there's so many stories.
Yeah.
And so many amazing relationships I've formed with people, which is, it's really sweet to be part of people's journeys. So I was thinking about one case that I've been working with this woman for at least the last 5 years. So she was sent to me by a psychologist. And so she was a very, very complex, somewhat daunting case. She'd had multiple car accidents, severe pain in the body, and a metal plate in the back, in the lower part of her spine, where her spine had been fused. So extreme energetic block. And then chronic constipation, refusal to drink water. And then in the background, she grew up in the Central Valley of California, and her parents were involved with certain kind of cults, religious cults. So she was restrained, and many terrible things happened to her. Her mother seemed to be somewhat possibly schizophrenic. So, a very complex field but the initial presentation is chronic pain. And I'd say it was chronic emotional and physical pain. So we're talking about these clusters. And so, of course, the first thing I worked on, so with her, I had to start very, very slowly because she was highly emotionally reactive. She had had certain psychological splitting patterns also. So actually, the way we started was just to get her going to the bathroom but this was quite complex because she didn't want to put anything in her mouth, and she had very, very limited food intake. So working with the psychologist and working together, we gradually got her drinking water, and I gave her one of our little wooden energy activator devices, little crystal on the top. I got her rubbing certain acupuncture points and esogetic colorpuncture points, one called the aggressive zones, to move the intestines while she drank warm water. And it was quite incredible. This isn't a quick fix with this woman. Over several months, she lost 15 pounds. And then she started to get motivated and excited. So, one of the things we try to do is engage the client in their healing, even using small, simple things like crystals or sound therapies. So, then I started using our energy emission analysis device to really look and see where the blockage was in the background. Where was the main place she was getting caught? Interestingly, it was age 9, and that age 9 pattern is connected with the spine and the colon on the physical level. So I started with some therapies that we use to open the diaphragmatic arch and reconnect the intestines, the gut brain, and the main brain to support her psychoimmunity. So she started to feel a little happier, a little more excited to be alive. And then gradually we started working with her pain medication addiction. It was very interesting. After that treatment, she came and she said, "I'm sick of being numbed out. I can't do anything." So we open up one primary energetic channel in the body, a strong block around the diaphragm, disconnecting the intestines and the main brain. And out of the opening of that energetic flow, then we started working on titrating down the medicine. And then then what actually happened next was a lot of rage.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then working to reframe the rage as her aliveness coming back on board, and her activating her defensive responses. So she had been heavily restrained and abused.
Yeah.
So, she came in and she said, "Wow, I'm really angry." And I was like, "That is really good news. I'm
Yes.
thrilled." And it was great to see the change in her facial expression, because then it was like, we want to celebrate this you showing up. So it's been this long process, and then zooming in even more, working with the mother and the father conflicts, so on and so forth. So that's one where it's really been this dance between the mind and the body, working with the pain levels and kind of the energetic end stage that she'd gotten into, just basically numbed out and highly medicated and completely disconnected.
I think that's an amazing story overall to give people like the vastness of what you're doing and what it works with, because again, we're working with the information. And I think it's also valuable to note that, like you said, it takes time. And I think the way in which the treatment system is set up to engage the client as well, that changes things, because it's a paradigm shift from this type of medicine where you're used to having someone do everything for you or tell you what pill to take, where you're having these things come up that is for them and their spirit, their psyche to process, to release, and for them to do the drinking of water and, stimulating the aggressive zones with the activator stick. And like that, I think helps people feel, even just doing something, that they are active and an active participant. And I think that's really the shift that we need to have, a paradigm shift we need to have with medicine in general. But I found with working with my clients with color puncture, they love not only the homework and what they get to do, but they love the assessments as well. So the different ways that you assess, which looks at the tongue diagnosis, facial diagnosis, the iridology, looking at the iris, and then the fingers. And then you take Kirlian photography of the fingers and toes before and after the treatment to see and to show the client the difference in the biophoton emissions, so they can actually see, oh my gosh, there's actually a shift in my energy, in the expression of the information field that you can see right here. So I'd love if you'd have anything to share about that, because we don't need to go into all those different ways. There's so many more ways that you do assess, and blood panels are part of that too. It's not just one thing. It's really looking at from this complete picture. But I think that's really fun for the client to immediately see results and a difference, and then have something that they can do in between to make it them an active participant in their healing journey.
Yeah, because remember, we were talking about pain overcoupled with a feeling of helplessness. So the thing is to support people to feel a sense of agency in their own lives, because that then they start to take steps, and gradually you build new pathways of association. So that's a very important thing. So yes, what we're picking up on is some key things in terms of the way you think about the therapy. One thing is, Peter says, you never make an evaluation from one method only. You always look at multi-factors. So you're talking about looking at the iris diagnosis to get some genetic imprinting and see how the person was born and what the setup was, the disease potentials. We're talking about certain testing, evaluations, tongue diagnosis, so on and so forth. And I was mentioning this system called energy emission analysis evaluation device that we use. And what we do is we measure the energetic radiation emitted by the body via the photos, and we see the emission coming from the fingers and the toes. So many of you know that all the meridian systems begin and end on the fingers and the toes. And there are many bioelectrical devices used for evaluating this emission. So the Vol machine was an early reference point for Peter. But Peter's developed his own set of steps for integrating the meaning of the energetic patterns coming from the meridians. And he studied these emissions in relation to clinical lab tests. So, for example, I met a woman from upstate New York who'd had cancer for many years and had gone through certain, colon cancer, I think breast cancer to colon cancer to liver cancer. So this is how he uses it in the clinic, in the German clinic, they have a small blood work lab. So they would run the blood work when she would arrive. So the explicit, the matter, and then they take the energetic picture. So Peter says the energy starts to change 3 to 6 months before you might see a change in the blood work. So they check the blood work and then they check the energy picture, and then they would treat her until they would see a change in the energetic pattern. Then they check the blood values. So that's how they work in Germany, especially with very seriously ill people. With most clients, they'll use the energy emission analysis and the iris diagnosis, tongue diagnosis, palpation, different types of testing, and watch how it changes. So we understand, you see, we're working with the energy patterns to try to stop it having an impact on the cells and these cellular changes, these reverses in the cellular swing. So we say information rides on energy and informs matter. Well, I'll tell you one fun one that I had the other day. So I had some engineers come up from Silicon Valley area, and they were just specifically interested in the Kirlian machine, in the energy emission analysis. And so I took a photo of the husband. And again, the index finger, we see an emission around the spine and the colon. So the emission showed this huge block in his neck, C1, the medulla area. And he had certain digestive problems, insomnia. And then I saw in his intake that he had a scoliosis. So he has lower back pain. So I could see from the photo that scoliosis, he wasn't realizing how much that scoliosis connected to his formation of the body in the womb during the gestation period was affecting all these other symptoms that he had. So I started showing this to him in the Kirlian, and they were super, super interested and asking about all the different signs and, very interested from the engineering perspective. But I said, why don't you go to this Dr. Frank He? He's an acupuncturist down in your area, very, very good, working with chronic pain. He has this intense neck and leg pain. So they contacted me the next day and they said, or a few days later, he went in and saw Frank He, and they said, he said exactly the same thing. It's all from the scoliosis. And so they were excited because what I showed them on the reading was then confirmed by someone who, works with, he just thought he had lower back pain and leg pain, but he didn't really understand why. From our perspective, then we would add working with the prenatal and genetic levels, how that got set up in the body.
Yeah. So you would do treatments for that. Yeah. So I'm sure everyone's like, this is so fascinating, and I know that this is an episode I'm sure people are going to listen to multiple times because there's so much information here. I will just share briefly one of the really cool stories for one of my clients. I've been working with a client for about 6 years on a weekly and biweekly basis. And, after a few years, we finally got him to go and see a chiropractor because, it's one of those things, I do the energy medicine and I do the medical intuitive piece, and as well as the massage therapy and more of a therapeutic medical type massage. And we were working with his connective tissue, and I knew that he needed to go see a chiropractor. I knew there was emotional, there was definitely a space in which his personality was setting up a rigidity. And, before the colorpuncture training, I knew there was other things going on. But when he finally went to see the chiropractor, he, had some more progression, but he plateaued in his alleviating his pain and his stress and his pattern. And when I got my training and certification, I did 2 treatments on him, And he has been recovered with kidney cancer before I had met him. And he had been in remission and had been going every 6 weeks to get blood work for his kidney function. And he still had, a lot of extra foam in his urine and still had, his levels were high for his kidney levels. And they were never really in a normal range. And after 2 treatments, he had called me, and he never calls me. And I thought, oh my gosh, something must be up. And he said, call me back immediately. And I called him back. He said, I just want to let you know, I no longer have foam in my urine. And that has never happened since my kidney cancer and treatment. Since I've seen you, I've been seeing you every week, every other week for 5-6 years now. And he said that he got his blood panels back for his kidney tests and they were normal. And he said he had to ask the nurses again, can you just check you? What do you mean by normal for me? Because I know they're always high. And that's kind of normal for me. It's staying stationary. They said, no, you're absolutely in the normal range. And he has continued to have the normal blood panels come back for his kidney function. So I thought that was just amazing. And we've had some really awesome stories as well from some of my other clients with the prenatal treatments and things like that. But I just wanted to share, I think that was really amazing. And I just look forward to the future of energy medicine in general and devices and using light and frequency. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are about the future of energy medicine using light and frequency. What do you think we'll see in the upcoming years?
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm so excited that you shared that story, because that was something I had thought that I wanted to hear from you also about your experiences with it. And I really love to hear from students these stories, because then it's not just me. It's actually, these things are also having a ripple effect out through the community and are helping people. Essentially, what we want to do is support people. And so I'm really, thanks for sharing that and putting that in the podcast. Well, I think, as we're saying, I see, when I first came to America and we were trying, so this was in the early 90s, we were trying to set up courses and get continuing education credits with different communities. Every call was a cold call. Nobody knew about light. It's very interesting. I was saying from the 30s, they were researching it in Russia, and then from the 70s in Germany. Information about light therapy only started to show up in mainstream medicine around 2010. So suddenly, the whole community has engaged with using light. And now, I was looking at several different articles about applications of light. So I think this is going to just continue to proliferate. And I do think it's a wonderful contribution. It's another element in this, kind of multi-dimensional approach that we need to take to healing. Like, when I have people who have a serious illness, I always draw a mandala, because people feel overwhelmed. How do I work with this? So I draw a mandala and I put them in the middle. And then I might put up here, I put molecules around the mandala. So one might be self-care. Within self-care, food, how we nourish ourselves, hydration, exercise, meditation, communication with friends, social engagement, super important. Application of all those things might then lead you into feeling like, I need support with the way I'm not socially engaging. So then we have our practitioners, our different therapies, we have our spirituality. So we look at all the elements around self that we use to catalyze change. It's not just one thing. And so I think if we bring light into the allopathic model, then we create another avenue other than drugs. And so that's great for their medicine. And in alternative medicine, then we use supplements, we use acupuncture, we use body work. We have many, many resources. But we need a lot of resources to really activate change in people.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for explaining that and giving the examples too, because it is very complex and each of us is different. Our story and our journey is different. So, and that's why I think that's where the empowerment medicine, I call it empowerment medicine, comes in, where we are teaching and educating and giving examples to our clients from the way that we practice and the way that we take care of ourselves so that they have some more resources as well, because we've walked that talk. And I think people need it because they do get overwhelmed when they start on this journey. Like, where do I start? There's so much to do, but it's not a finish line. It's a journey, and I think that's what life is. It's journey of consciousness through these little meat suits that we live in. So it's a great time to be alive here as we see the shift in the paradigms all over the planet. I think it's really cool to see things. It's scary for a lot of us, but I think it's good. I think overall we're having a lot of good change we can see. So is there anything else you'd like to share at all about your work or about color puncture before we, share a little bit about how people can find you, and if they're a practitioner, if they want to learn from you, what are those steps there?
Well, the first thing, I just want to pick up on what you were saying. And Peter has a particular saying. He says, everything develops and nothing just occurs. So you want to encourage people. We start activating pathways. And these pathways of behavior, emotions, perceptions, and our relationship to our somatic body start to create changes in the pattern. And gradually, we engage in new patterns. And our brain starts to change, and then our psyche and our spirit shift. So everybody wants to, can feel encouraged that you just start somewhere, go in anywhere, nothing can harm you, and you just start cultivating a healing approach to things. So if they want to contact me, I think we're going to have a contact list for my website. And on my website, I have many resources. I have 5 or 6 different talks on there, the store, articles, all the different types of seminars people can take. And then also I have connections to practitioners all over the country who are working all over the country. Obviously, Kara in your area is a go-to person. So you're very fortunate in your area to have Kara. Yeah, so the website, I've tried to put as many resources on that website.
Yeah, perfect. And I'll link that in the show notes, everyone. And then I do also encourage you to look for the Finding a Practitioner in your area on her website. I use that a lot, actually, Rosemary, because I do have people that work with me remotely that they want access to this. And I say, hey, go find someone here. So that's a really, really amazing resource.
If you ever can't find someone, just send me an email, because I might know someone who hasn't put themselves on the website. There are more practitioners than those who put themselves on the website. So just reach out.
Perfect. Well, our final questions are today. We have 2 final questions, Miss Rosemary. So the first question is, what's your favorite product, wellness topic, or self-care indulgence at this time?
I was kind of thinking about this question. There's a really fantastic website created by a friend of mine. It's called Fit Mind. And he has a whole series of beautiful meditations and processes for unwinding. And he also has his own podcast, many different talks with different neuroscientists about the brain. And so that's actually, it's really fantastic. And he interviews a lot of people who are also long-term spiritual practitioners, but researchers on the brain. So lots of things around consciousness. He's a very beautiful man. His name's Liam McClintock. So I'm currently, indulging in what his offering is.
I'll absolutely add that to the show notes as well. And that's perfect timing because I just had a question from someone yesterday, one of my clients, that they want to dive deeper into the brain science. And I had some research in books and to recommend them, but that's a wealth of resources, I'm sure, that especially the podcast too. So I'll send them there. Perfect. Second question. If you could detox one thing in your life or the world right now, what would it be?
Well, in my own life, I think it's self-doubt. We were talking about this, not trusting myself. I would detox that thought pattern. And in terms of the whole world, I would like to detox the polarization and people feeling that self and other might be in opposition because of value systems or belief systems. I'd like to drop deeper below that into the places where, as humans, we have common values and aspirations, and to work at that humanitarian level so we can collaborate together to live and create as humans in relation to animals and plants and the whole incredible biosphere that we inhabit.
Everything you're saying is why I'm here. I feel like a lot of the listeners are as well. And I will comment that, there's so many healers and colleagues of mine and that feel the same way, that this self-doubt kind of gets in their way. They feel that it's a block for them. And I often think to myself, what would happen if all the healers in the world, we're all doing our own work to get over that because we're conscious of it. A lot of us, like, I have to figure out, how do I not sabotage, or how do I not get in my own way and just really share what I have? No apologies. Because I think to myself, if those individuals stepped into positions of leadership in a more way that's shining in a bigger way, the world would shift to a lot bigger of a space, and that would shift the consciousness in a way that moves beyond that polarization into more of a neutral space, and what you're talking about that affects the world. So I think other people out there listening can really relate, and I think it's just a reminder for all of us out there that you're not the only one. It doesn't matter how long you've been in practice. Rosemary, you've been practicing for many, many years, that we still get imposter syndrome. We still get this feeling like we're not enough, or we're worried about sharing. So it's very, very common. So thank you so much for coming on. I'm really excited for us to get this out and share it to all of you listeners out there. This is an episode I've been waiting for and I've been especially excited about. But if you have any further questions, you can absolutely reach out to Rosemary on her website. All the information and books and resources that she talked about, we'll share those in the show notes. And again, thank you guys so much. We will be bringing you back with some more mind, body, spirit, medicine information on the Mind, Body Detox podcast. And thank you again for listening, and be well until next time, my friends. Thank you for listening to the Mind, Body Detox podcast. We wish you wellness and health in your mind, body, and spirit. And be well until next time, my friends.